Mm. Welcome to a thinking man's hour of the Pink Boys podcast. This is some PBS NPR level stuff we're about to be getting into here because it's solely me with my main man and league partner, Tyson. And we're going to be breaking down some very complex issues because we sent the children off to bed, as some would say, right, Tyson?
You see, Batman, I know that you want a duo episode with Noari and Adam.
And there goes the maturity out the window. But that's so. I'll start. Well, no, I'll start it off by getting the question over to you, Tyson, so we can get the formalities out of the way. How are you doing?
Doing good. Just had a really nice cigarette with my best friend Jenna Ortega. You know, feeling relaxed.
I feel like we're so late with some of these episodes that people have already forgotten that was all people could talk about online for about 2 days is Jenna Ortega.
For those of you who don't know, Jenna Ortega was trending on Twitter like fucking last week because there was a picture of her smoking a cigarette outside of Deli, and apparently this was her getting canceled or something. But for the record, if you don't think this was a fucking Jenna W, you're a loser. So
there are some items of discussion surrounding her, and there's some weird prickly reasons why some people don't like her. I think she kind of pulled off, and Henry Cavill took this too far in The Witcher. I think he doesn't know as much about The Witcher as he leads on, because all the things he complains about aren't from the books. It seems like he only played the games and maybe doesn't remember the books, but he seemed like someone who was really focused on having The Witcher adapt the original sources as accurately as possible. Apparently, Jenna Ortega was getting into trouble because she in interviews was trying to say that, what is it, Wednesday? The show.
Wednesday, yep.
Yeah, she was trying to say that they were trying to get her character into some weird love triangle, most likely bisexual, if I were to have to guess, if it's on Netflix. And Jenna Ortega's like, no, I wouldn't be into doing this. This makes no sense. That makes no sense for Wednesday as a character. And they finally got off of it, which makes sense because they tried to do the same thing in the Sabrina remakes that they did with Kiernan Shipka. She just, this person's gay, this person's not. Oh, they all like each other. Oh, they're all okay with each other, dating each other. This is not how real life functions with actual well-adjusted people. So I think Jenna Ortega kind of saw the forest through the trees on that.
It wasn't a bisexual triangle. It was a straight triangle, but Jenna had to choose between. So she was playing Wednesday Addams. From
you know
Addams
way
family.
More about this than I thought you did. Go ahead.
And she was trying to. Originally, she was trying to choose between the fucking goth guy or the fucking ripped like Chad jock guy. Which, if you know anything about the Addams family, that's not what they are, right? Like,
they're not sitting there pining over these two different guys, and yeah, exactly. That's not who I think of when I think of the character Wednesday. And obviously, you would go for the goth guy every time. I mean, are you kidding?
I'd like to self-insert as the jock guy, so.
Okay, maybe in your dreams, but yeah, I guess there was a video of her going around smoking a cigarette, and people had problems with this because we live in the age of parasocial relationships now, where because you are able to have a degree of separation between yourself and an actor where you think you can communicate with them when you're really not, you're able to feel like you can judge their life actions and are in some way connected to them. Back in the day, it used to translate to what? Taking a shot at Ronald Reagan because you felt like Jodie Foster wanted you to. It was just an incredible effort on that man's part. But now we have a different version of that where you're obsessed with this person's actions in their life and judge them for everything that they do. You ascribe this impossible standard to them where they might not smoke cigarettes or might not be in a relationship with someone you like. But I saw that clip of her smoking that cigarette, and I mean, I was all about it. I think she looked great. People look hotter.
It's a high test filter, so there's that.
Is it? You know what I haven't been able to get into? This is another trend in the reactosphere that I've seen, is that cigarettes are actually good for you.
They are.
See, I don't know if I can get on board with that one. You'll have to. I'll go Ben Shapiro and you'll be like, you gotta show me the facts. Show me the facts on that one. So I'm not asking you to, but if you have some.
Twitter LARPers like to say return to tradition, and by that they mean like the whole tired meme of like returning to the Crusades, 1500s, and all that. But what they really should be saying is return to the tradition of the 1980s, where people were smoking cigarettes. So,
well, oh man, not to go too in depth about this, but I guess this is the episode to do that. Is the 80s and 90s have this romanticized quality where you felt like life was all good. There was no more Vietnam War. There was a lot of advances in technology. We were still rooted culturally in some ways that kept each other all kind of in a strong community. And then somewhere in the 2000s, I'd say post 9/11, that all changed. So people want to go back to some time where things felt like they were better
yeah,
or getting into
I
a better
was
place. So yeah,
I was
maybe
thinking
you're
about
right.
this for a little bit actually, and I realized you could categorize the 80s as like a decade where you had all the benefits of globalization but none of the downsides, you know? Because
Yeah.
the world was like it was small enough in the 80s and I guess the early 90s where you could like it was normal to like backpack across the country. You could like visit other countries and stuff, but the cultures were still like distinct enough that it wasn't like the homogenous mess that you have now, you know?
Well, that was because it was pre-internet, and then internet
Yeah.
became corporatized and homogenized, as you just said, and that kind of took the magic out of it and removed the wonder from our lives. So culturally, at least, and then we destroyed our own communities. This is something that I kind of want to get into at some point. And this was I was thinking about this when I was walking around Staples today because I something you can easily get online. I get in my car and drive and go get it because I seriously want to practice what I preach when it comes to this kind of thing. People talk about how we don't have good old downtowns with communities where people walk around and say hi to each other, and it's because we don't have industrious small business in our communities anymore because everyone left or right side of the aisle orders everything from Amazon. And it Amazon to me is the intersection between economy and culture where both go to die, and we contribute to it every time we order something online. So I try and avoid that as much as possible, and I think other people should too, because you'll never get a community back while you're ordering everything that you need online. You can't complain about changes in culture and shop at places like Amazon. I look for any opportunity to talk about this kind of thing, so I'll stop myself. What that has to do with Jenna Ortega smoking a cigarette, I'm not sure exactly. Oh yeah, because we were talking about the
No,
80s and
that
all of
was a
that
good
stuff. So.
segue into one of the things I was wanting to talk about though.
But you're done with Jenna. We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, not spiritually. She's my queen for now.
She's
So
very good looking, but yeah, keep going.
I really want to bring up the topic of 15-minute cities again, and I think you should reconsider your position on them being a good thing because I think they're really bad actually. After reading more into it,
Okay. Okay.
so
Why is that?
your thesis for why the 15-minute cities
Oh
are good
no.
is because they would bring people together, right? And
Sure.
if you read what they want to do with 15-minute cities, that's true, but I think they want to do it by force, right? So I read some stuff where it they're essentially gonna. So if you have a city of like over 1 million people, they're gonna divide the city into quadrants, right? So if you live in like the east quadrant, west quadrant, that sort of stuff.
Those Sector 45ers, they're a bunch of assholes. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah, yeah.
got you. Yeah.
So it, the, in the name of like climate change and like global warming and stuff, they're trying to
Okay.
implement this thing where okay, cars are like the main killer for climate change, right? So in order to drive that down, if you're in the east quadrant, you can only cross into another quadrant for non-work purposes like this many times a week. And beyond that, you have to like apply for a special permit or something. It's like okay, that's too far. You know, like
Okay,
that's
so if 15-minute cities are done under the guise of curtailing anthropogenic global warming, then yes, I don't agree with that. That would be very stupid if they were done under that pretense. So yeah, that is a shame. I'm sad to hear the bad news about 50-minute cities. I feel like you're the doctor coming back from the idea operating the marketplace of ideas operating. I'm sorry, we lost the 50-minute cities. So I did the same thing with RFK because people are obsessed over RFK as some type of like firebrand politician that is somehow also a Kennedy. I love how they could parse those two things together somehow. But I'll see an old video of him and he'll be talking about things like climate change or gun control. And because he has like one semi-right leaning idea of populism over the last few years, people latch onto him. But I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to let him go. We lost him on the operating table. I can't do it. I can't do it. So
I dropped RFK the second I heard his voice. Like, what the fuck is up with
Wait,
that?
what does he sound like? I'm going to look this up afterwards.
Have you not heard his voice? He sounds like fucking Kermit the Frog, dude. He sounds like someone who's like, Jenna smoking is a W, but Robert sounds like he smoked every single cigarette in human existence.
Yeah, well, he is a Kennedy, right? So there could be something to do with that. Well, he also plays into the whole how cute the QAnon Trump crowd thinks that one of the Kennedys is somehow still alive. I don't know. They have all kinds of weird stuff going on there. So
a Kennedy playing to a CIA psyop. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's something I can't fully go into, but yeah, I'll reinvestigate my thoughts on 15-minute cities. But I think we need to start investigating ways to bring people together as communities, because I think that's what's missing at the heart, at least in my country, and a lot of it has to do with online shopping, online communities, social media, etc. But that's such a large topic, we'll never cover it. You know, that's what the Pink Boys are for, just solving long-term problems over the course of time. So, but there's something I want. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
I'm sure it's something.
I was gonna ride the edge. No, I was gonna say, like, I think one way to like bring people together is like have a modern day like youth program, you know.
Okay.
So sort of like
I used to get a youth group program, when I was a kid. Yeah.
Like a mandatory like youth program, sort of like what Germany had in the 40s, right? But like not like the ideology wise, but like if every person from like fucking 14 to like 24 had to attend like the New Zealand youth or Philadelphia youth or whatever. Like, wow,
that's a really interesting idea. So what do you think about people who need to have mandatory military service when they're younger?
Oh, I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, you are all for that.
I definitely wouldn't dodge the draft or anything. You know?
I love how yeah, I won't go into that, but let's just say Donald Trump's not the only one draft dodging around here. So, but maybe that's one thing, though. You know, 6 month heavily nationalistic military service could instill an identity on people. I mean, even looking at myself, I love my parents, but I look back and sometimes I think they took it a little too easy on me. And I could have used 6 months at some type of military rigid, directive program. That probably would have helped me out a lot with like, discipline in life.
It's like, at the very least, the thing that the baseline that's going to provide is like, it provides something in common for everyone, right? Every single guy, you can at least like relate, like, hey, what was your role in the youth program? That was.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. You could talk about it all. Yeah, you could talk about all kinds. And if you took some type of test that saw you were good at communications or good at speaking, then you might get something. You'd still have to do some physical course, but then after that, you would go into whatever your concentration was. This is good stuff, actually. Yeah, we're putting something together here. We should pitch this to, I don't know, the Pentagon. I don't know. We would say that too. But you are bringing up something that actually is tangentially related to something I wanted to talk about, and this is a public service announcement for anyone listening that's under 30 and still has a chance to get their lives together. So maybe I'm speaking directly to you, Tyson, when I say this, even though you have a strange sleep schedule. But speaking of youth and discipline, I gotta tell you guys right now, you are leaving your lives on the table by sleeping in on weekends, you are wasting so much time if you wake up past, let's say, 9:30 a.m. on weekdays or weekends. I know people that are waking up at 12 p.m., in some heinous cases 1 p.m. because they were up late the night before. You're missing out on some of the most, those calm pleasures in life that aren't huge moments like weddings or celebrations. It's just like those small little moments. That's what you're missing out on when you're not running errands in the morning. There's something so therapeutic about waking up and not feeling hungover, and it's at an early time before everyone else gets up, and you go and run errands. Maybe you go and get breakfast, you go and get toiletries that you need, you go and get, so like even this morning I went and got breakfast. I went to Staples. I went to Best Buy. I went to Ulta to get tanning supplies. I did everything. I did all and this was all before 10 o'clock. This is before the world even got started. And there's a bunch of people out just like you, a bunch of nice, well-to-do, organized morning people that are getting their lives done in an orderly manner. And now I had the rest of the day to do whatever I want, to do the stupid podcast, to lay out, to hang out by the pool, to do whatever I want. And that's what I'm doing right now. So I got to say, anyone who's listening that is sleeping in, you need to reassess. You need to reassess because you're missing a lot of your life. And then the week starts back up and then you're done. You ever see videos, let's just say day in the life TikToks of girls? They wake up and say, so I start my day with some yoga, then I meditate, and then I go and get like an iced latte from Ball. They're living life. They're living a whole chunk of their life that you're missing, and they're healthy.
Here's why that's a good thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, is there anything you want to get by, Tyson, about sleeping habits?
Look, I don't have the best sleep schedule. Like, I slept at 5 a.m. last night, and I woke up at 10:30, right? But when I do have a schedule, I make it a point to wake up before 10 a.m. on weekends. Like,
okay,
I think it's pretty funny because every time I've woken up, I'm someone that gets really, really fucking angry if I wake up past like
get angry.
Well, like if I wake up past noon, I start like seething really, really hard. And I think there was one time where I was working like overtime at one of my jobs, and I was putting in like 12-hour days for 6 days a week, and I had 1 day of rest. Which would be Sunday. And I remember
this is your own version of Genesis in the Bible. And then Tyson rested on the seventh day. Sorry, go ahead.
And then I went to sleep, and then I woke up at 1 p.m. on that Sunday, and I was so fucking depressed, and I was so fucking angry that I punched a hole in the wall, because it's like, really, I work 12 fucking days a week, 12 hours a day, and then I get 1 day of rest, and in that 1 day, I have to wake up past midday, which means half the day's already fucking gone. Like, dude, that's so...
I love you punched your wall. It's a white boy moment right there. I know there's some days where, you know it. I know you're in a vastly different time zone from me, but I'll play league with you until 3:30 in the morning my time, and then there goes my whole next day. That's it. We're done. I'm out of business. I'm out of commission. I wasted a whole half a day sleeping in because I had to go loose and jungle with you. So it is a little bit painful in that sense, but the hard part is that when you're in your 20s, it's really easy to drink and be cool and go out and kind of wake up and find some happy medium. When you get a little bit older, you can't afford to do that. If you're drinking the night before, you have to accept the next day is out of commission. You're done. The best you can do is maybe like sloth over to McDonald's and clean some stuff around the house. That's the best you can do. When you're 24,
that's depressing. Holy shit.
It's not depressing because it forces you to stop leaning on alcohol and going out hard the night before to have fun, and you start to find joys in the smaller things in life, such as running errands or just going out to dinner with someone and having 2 drinks, or being in control of your health and what you're doing in your spare time and giving more time back to yourself in a healthy way. You become more cognizant of these things instead of wasting them in your 20s and just throwing them at a wall. I wish I were more cognizant of the way things made me feel in my 20s than I am now. But you know, it's just that's the way life works. It's how you mature. It's how you grow. It's just harsh. It's harsh the way it works. So, but again, just if you're thinking about it, just imagine the nice calm peace of being awake sober in the morning. It actually is. It's a gift in life. It really is. So it sounds like I'm at like Alcoholics Anonymous. Just like I really don't have a.
I'm like a fucking grandpa, like reminiscing on his on his like
yeah,
Twilight.
yeah. Maybe I'm just on some really obnoxious LA girl holistic health kick or something, because I do like waking up in the morning, you know, and walking around in Lululemon and getting something, you know, nice to eat or drink to start my day. I should just do a really weird Pink Boys TikTok version of that. You know? So what it's like in the day of a Pink Boy, and then you know I lay in the pool, then I play a League of Legends game with Tyson, my friend Tyson. He's funny.
And then I just lost LP. Like I just chill.
I just went down a rank, even though I won 2 games before that. You know, yeah, right. Like that would ever happen. But okay, I have a serious economic declaration to make that's been puncturing my mind for a little bit here, but I'm going to let that go for a second because I'm more curious about something you wrote down to me before we started here. I'm seeing a subject. I think it's mysterious because it reminds me of this conspiracy called the Montauk Project or the Philadelphia Experiment. I see something in here. It's a subject called the Deli Sandwich Project. What is the Deli Sandwich Project? Can you explain?
Dude, so I went to this fucking this like fancy deli and had this ham and cheese sandwich, and that ham and cheese sandwich was so fucking good. I was like busting a nut the minute I bit into it, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is a ham and cheese sandwich. It's bread, it's ham, and it's cheese. Surely, like what they make can't be that much better than what I'm making at home with like my ham and cheese, right? So there has to be something that they're doing that makes their shit taste way more better than what I'm doing. So I'm trying to embark on some research to like see how can I improve my fucking sandwich techniques and make it like reach that level.
Isn't that kind of on the same level of that guy who has comparison videos where it's, you know, I can make this McDonald's burger but better at my home? Is that kind of what you're getting at, or is it something else?
It's like quality. It's like I've never been able to approach, like, I'll make food at home, but that food will never taste as good as like food I get from a restaurant, right? And I'm like, okay, well, there has to be like a secret here that I'm missing. There has to be something that I can do that can make it approach that level, because it's fucking restaurant food. It's just food. You can do it. There has to be a way, you know?
Well, I'll sound like one of those annoying health freaks, which I'm not, because I hate when people say this, and you know how much I love McDonald's and disgusting food, so I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but the go-to line for everyone, and you know what, we're getting into talking about people who love to just exclaim how much they love making their food at home. They would say, oh, I can just make that at home. You can just make that at home, and it's healthier at home. It's just like, I don't want to sit around and make stuff at home. It's like, I hate to say his name, but that infamous if you get a chance, I know you've seen it, but I'm saying for people listening, Andrew Tate has a short clip about making fun of people who make food at home. And it is, yes. I love when because you can tell he's breaking character in it a little bit because he smiles at the end and it's hilarious. But he talks about people who make food at home and he's like, you got your lettuce. Okay. You're cutting your lettuce. And then he pauses for a second while he's fake cutting lettuce. And then he just looks at the camera and he goes, you're poor. You're fucking broke. And it's the funniest. It's my favorite clip of him. It really is. Because you can tell he's having a fun time with it. But that's the way I feel when I'm cooking at home. I feel like I'm domesticating myself. If I can afford to go out and eat, I'm going to go out and eat something and enjoy it a lot more than sitting around and be like, okay, time to wait 30 minutes while I do this and then that. It must be some biological gender related thing.
It's
why I find
it's pretty
strange.
Fucking depressing. Like I'll try my hardest to make a sandwich and it will still somehow taste worse than like the shitty Subway down my block. Like really,
that's true. That's a good point.
They're so much more above me in making sandwiches. Like, come on, dude.
This guy who makes $10 an hour is just crushing you. Putting this. So I forgot to make my actual point because I was so annoyed at people who love to just talk about how much they make food at home. But it was they at restaurants, from what I've heard, is they put more oils on their food. They drench it in oil. That's what people love to say. It's like, oh, there's just so many oils on that it just has all these calories, and that's why you have to make it at home. It's okay. If you claim that it tastes better at home when you make it yourself and it's healthier, why don't restaurants do that too? Why don't they just have a restaurant where they don't put a bunch of stuff in oil and it still tastes good? They're obviously figuring something out that I'm not quite aware of, but I know exactly how you feel. I feel the same exact way. Steak, for instance, I'll make steak rare in my air fryer. It tastes terrible. It's awful. Even eggs. Yep. What is a diner doing to an egg that I'm not doing to an egg? They're doing something to eggs that I'm not doing. My eggs are completely different. So how do they make them runny in a very specific way where they're pink? I've never been able to make an egg that's pink on the top at home. Have you? Am I going crazy?
No, dude. A diner's like scrambled eggs is like so much more above whatever my scrambled eggs are. It's unreal, Yeah,
why do they get away with that? I don't get why they're able to do that. But sandwiches, BLT, things like that, salads, maybe they're just smarter at getting fresher ingredients. Maybe what you have at home isn't as fresh. But is that true?
No.
Is your diner doing that?
I know one secret for the sandwich thing, and I've done some research, right? So apparently, if you have like a sauce or like a dressing for the sandwich, you make sure you want to spread it on both slices of the sandwich first. I think most people, they would have the bread, put the toppings on, and like squirt the sauce on, right? Or at the most squirt the sauce on like one side of the sandwich. But apparently putting it on both sides lubricates the toppings from both ends. So that apparently makes it taste way better.
But people like to talk about how, steak, for instance, you leave it out for 24 hours and let it marinate. Well, that restaurant's not doing that. They're not doing that with their steak that I'm eating. That's better than the steak that I just made at home. And, they love to do that whole thing where they say, I can just make it at home and it tastes better. Does it? Does it really? Is your thing you're doing at home really taste better than that restaurant? You can go to Chili's and get a full. Remember one time, Chili's types bars. What's the other one? Applebee's. Do they have those over in New Zealand where you are?
We have something, equivalent,
chains like that. There's one called Houlihan's, which might be even a step below that. They have these stuffed goat cheese mushrooms that are really good, but someone ordered a filet there, a filet mignon at the bar, and the bartender was unusually nice for a place like that. She was like, "Oh, what'd you think of your steak?" It's just some old boomer guy, and he was like, "Oh, it's a little rough." Well, it's like, dude, you ordered a filet mignon at a Houlihan's. What did you think was going to happen? What exactly? And you know what? Maybe that's a class disparity thing. Maybe you really are in a lower class or caste if you're ordering steak from a Houlihan's and expect. That's like going to McDonald's and ordering salad or something. You go to Houlihan's and you order apple, you get jalapeno poppers or mozzarella sticks or a burger or something. You don't get what kind of idiot are you getting a steak at a place like that? It makes absolutely no sense to me. It really bothers me. But I gave up on trying to compare my cooking to restaurants because A, I can't cook, and B, I'm extremely limited in what I can cook, and C, I like going out to eat too much. I like going and getting in my car and grabbing food.
There's a nice adventure, and maybe you feel the same way as well. But I see so much when I'm out with friends, and then all of us want to take a bite to eat, right? And then they want to go to the restaurant, order food to go, and then drive 30 minutes back home and then eat it there. It's like, no, can we just it's made fresh, can we just please eat it at the place, please?
Hold on. Who are your weirdo friends that are going out to restaurants and ordering their food? Are you talking about at a Five Guys type burger place, or are you talking about people do this at restaurants?
Like a Chinese, like a Chinese noodle shop or something. Well, my friends will be like, yeah, let's just get some food from there, and then they'll drive there, they'll order it to go, and then they'll drive all the way back to the house that we're drinking at tonight, and then we'll eat the stuff there. And it's like, dude, by the time it gets there, it's gonna be shit. Like, I don't want to eat shit. Can we just eat it there?
The damage that's done to food in that 10 to 20 minutes while you're in a car after that's why I never get food delivered. A, because I think it contributes to a horrible gig economy, but B, because it's never as good as when you could actually go and get it yourself. But I'm talking to the king of Uber Eats.
You know something that came to mind, speaking of like how restaurant food is like so much better than food you make yourself.
Yeah,
dude, even the fucking like ice water that I'll get at restaurants is better than the ice water in my house. Like, what the fuck is that, dude? How there's something going on.
We have to investigate the restaurants and see what's going on there. Yeah, because McDonald's, I understand. You're not going to be able to make something like that at home. They're putting crack in that. They're frying it. They're putting it on. I get all that kind of stuff. But when you're getting a BLT at a diner, you ain't going to make that BLT at home. You're not going to toast it the same way. You're not going to. Maybe they have better tools, better uses. But this is like a leftover childlike wonder I still have. I'll get something really complicated at a restaurant. Let's just say you get Indian food. There's a lot of ingredients in a typical Indian dish, tons, especially if you watch videos of it. So they did all of that for me in 20 minutes. That's kind of interesting that they do all of that and are able to make this really good dish that tastes amazing in 20 minutes for me. Meanwhile, if I did that at home, I would be like a caveman idiot for 2 hours before something far worse than what I mean. I know they're skilled at it and everything, but I can't. It's just compliments to chefs and restaurants. I guess it's not as easy as it looks, right? So,
yep.
But so you're going to go all the way with the ham and cheese sandwich.
I'm going to do some deep CIA level research on this shit, dude.
You're going to end up in a ditch. Someone's going to come out to you and say, I found out, what you need to do to these sandwiches, and it's going to be a honey pot. And you're just going to end up, you're going to get too close to the truth. But
you're going to find my buddy fucking in a ditch with like salt and pepper all over it.
in a chef's hat, calling card. All right. Well, since I brought up the infamous term, I said it about 5 minutes ago, was boomer. I have something to say about them, and I'm going to have a really hard time articulating this. So if you don't follow me, please let me know so maybe I can clarify it a little further. So something I noticed, and this is going to take me a little bit to formulate this. So something I noticed when driving through a nice neighborhood the other day was that the nicest houses in this neighborhood had work trucks in their driveway. So when I say work trucks, I mean contractor trucks, carpenters, plumbers, and it says JG and Sons or Hanford and Sons, or something related to contracting, blue collar related work of people who obviously live in these upscale homes. And what that made me realize is that given the ways in money has changed, the economy has changed, how jobs have changed over the years, importance in jobs, these blue collar workers are slowly becoming the new bourgeoisie in this country, and they don't realize it yet. So they're the ones who locked into lower interest rates on their homes. They're the ones who got their homes for about $150,000. They're the ones who are making six figures quite easily out of apprenticeship doing work, which is far more than the average college grad in business makes. And they're the ones who will be the first ones to tell you that you're not working hard enough. And I find it really disingenuous that they still like to pretend they're these hardworking, middle of America, heartland types of people when their lives are objectively easier than, let's just say, someone who has help from their parents graduating from a normal business school in college, which, mind you, is where these children were brainwashed to go to their entire lives, or they'd be a failure like their parents, who actually are quite well off with their blue collar job in these well mortgaged out homes. And it made me think that these people, you know, when a liberal is an activist and you find out that their parents are actually super wealthy, like philanthropic, investment bankers or something like that, these contractor heartland workers are the conservative version of that. They're posers. They're people who like to pretend they're these
Hmm.
hardworking, down-to-earth people when actually they struck a very lucky economy. They sometimes have second homes. They usually have boats. And you always wonder yourself, why does this 50-something-year-old loser boomer who talks about working hard all the time, but likes to harangue everyone for not having a job where he works with his hands? He has a boat. He has a shore house. He's got this. He's got that. But he wants to wag his finger at you and say that you don't work hard enough. It's because this man has not yet accepted his position as the new bourgeoisie in this country. It has changed completely. The middle class has morphed. And that's what bothers me, is that it used to be very clearly defined. You made 40 to 50,000, maybe 30,000 a year, working on a construction site. You were the heartland of America. Life was simple. Life was easy. Maybe you're in the military or something like that. And then there were wealthy liberal elites who kind of sneered down their noses at you. And they were the ones who were educated and went to college. The way money works between these two parties now isn't the same. It's changed completely. It's almost flipped. It's almost inverted in a way. You can either go to trade school and graduate with no debt and start making six figures immediately, or you can go to college, graduate with debt, and make six figures probably 5 years after that while you're slogging away of climbing some corporate ladder, which used to be the goal for these kinds of people. So I think there needs to be a reshuffling of the social caste deck
I think
within this country.
hmm,
Or am I off here?
I get what you're saying about them being the new bourgeoisie, but I think that's the wrong label for them. They're probably like
Yes, good point.
they're probably like a level below, right? They're definitely above like the average serf that graduates of like 200K of college debt and like makes 75K a year, right? But they I still feel like they're far below the average like San Francisco tech bro who
Okay.
does
Yeah.
like 2 hours of coding a day and then earns like 300K a year, like
Mhm.
or like a Netflix employee that like earns like $300,000 for like pitching like shitty scripts on Netflix originals. Like those people are the real bourgeoisie because their knees aren't fucking like banged up from doing roofing work, right? Like
Yes.
with the people that you talk the heartland types, at least you can see the fruit of their labor. You can see that the value they've produced in like the amount of like roofing irons they've created or like the amount of houses they've built. What the fuck can you see the fruit of labor from like a Netflix employee? Like what have they done? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I think my main issue, and not like this term even has any weight anymore, is just the hypocrisy of them being in denial that they are now the upper middle class when they like to pretend that they're the lower middle class. They are not anymore.
Mm.
They simply are not, based on their debt ratio, based on what they're earning at their positions. I'm sick of pretending. I'm sick of pretending that they think I look down on them because I went to college and worked some sort of office job. It's like, no, you're quite more well off than me and had more opportunity than me, and you're complaining to me about it for some reason. And it's my fault in some strange way as well. It's just this, it's like they're in denial and they don't want to accept their place, and that's what bothers me. And it reminds me of, like I said, a wealthy liberal activist who thinks that they're with the people and they're in the trenches fighting the good fight, but they really just have their rent or mortgage paid by mommy and daddy's money, and they were already college educated and have their master's in Afro-Latina studies or something. So, which actually now I would like to study that myself now that I'm saying it out
Or like
loud.
a 35-year-old like trust fund baby who's opening like an apothecary in Manhattan, right?
Is that, I didn't know. Are you naming a specific character? Is that Poison Ivy from Batman? Who is that? Who are you talking
An
about?
apothecary. I just discovered that word recently. Apparently it's like a store where like they have different types of jars. Like that's what it is apparently.
Okay, I had to double check because I was thinking of plants when you said that, but that's not what it is. I think I'm thinking of an abortium or something. What's it called when you're like selling? Abortium sounds like an abortion clinic. Yeah,
But if you
abortium
think
has
about it
something
though,
with parks and gardens. Yeah, go
an
ahead.
apothecary is like emblematic of that person that you're talking about. Like I can so imagine some fucking like retarded trust fund baby like, so yeah, like I'm just really getting into apothecaries and like I just opened one on Lower East Side, and it's like
I'm sorry. I really I don't want to interrupt what you're getting at here, but it says dictionary definition, apothecary, a person who prepared and sold medicines and drugs. He said it's just jars.
wait,
A jar
am I wrong on
store.
that? What the
Yeah, what do you so you just imagine a guy in Brooklyn selling mason jars or something? Is that what you're getting at?
no, that's okay. Well, that's
Let's see if I
well,
can grant
you know
some
what I mean. Like
clemency here.
a
Name
jar
of
store
person.
is the kind of store that they would open. Like just some mundane, like some lame shit like that.
Yeah, I googled name of person who sells jars, and I'm not getting any hits. So I see a few articles saying a reality star Stephanie Matto made $200,000 from farting in a jar. So maybe that's the type of jar salesman that you're thinking of, or saleswoman in this case. Maybe that's what you're thinking about. But I guess I'm just whinging because this is my crusade. If you want to talk about crusades, this has been an eternal battle for me against boomerisms and just kind of fighting back against. Yeah, I grow up my whole life with my grandfather saying, like, "Oh, you do, oh, poor you." It's just like, well, yeah, honestly, in some cases, So it makes me wonder about it sometimes. It just, I don't know. It just always amazes me because you see boomers out places and they're just so unbelievably rude and unforgiving of you because you're young, but they have everything in life. They have everything in life that we won't be able to have in a much easily attainable way.
I feel like American boomers are like a different breed. I want to experience what they're like.
You know what? That's a really good point because I did not feel that way when I was overseas when I dealt with people who were middle aged. I didn't get that. I didn't get that from them at all. They actually were a lot more agreeable and great to talk to, unless you're talking to, lower caste Londoner types like, yeah, blah blah blah. But they're drunk at the pub at 2 p.m. on a
But
weekday.
even those guys,
so.
you can have like an honest conversation with those guys, as
Yeah,
opposed to
it's
like
true.
like whatever these guys you're describing.
I think because they didn't have a Vietnam War over there. I think the Vietnam War, as talked about earlier, for some reason, I think that probably had a collective, that and the hippie revolution had this weird collective conscious psychosis on this country that we're still feeling the ramifications of with that generation. I think that has a lot to do with it because all Londoners and people in Europe have to think about still is World War II. That's where their trauma still comes from. But we've had a lot more than that happen in this country, and maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but it's a battle I'll keep fighting, but all I know is I'll outlive them, and that's the best thing I got going for
The
you.
the eternal W, right?
Yes,
the one
the only
W that can't
W.
walk away.
Yeah, the one. So all right, you know what? I'm just gonna make a segment of why I hate boomers. So I'm gonna leave it up. Maybe next week I'll have something else to say as well. But I'll kick it over to you. What's on your mind?
Actually,
What's
speaking that's a good
flying your
segue.
way?
Speaking of boomers,
Okay.
I'm so done with fucking Jesse Lee Peterson. Do
Okay,
you
I
know
don't know
who he
who that
is?
is. No.
So
I'm
those of
playing
you
dumb. I
who are
know a little
familiar,
bit who he is, but yeah, go ahead.
some of you guys who are familiar with like the right wing sphere know like who Jesse Lee Peterson is. He's this black guy who says all like the pre-approved talking points with fucking like the rightoid sphere, saying like,
Very good.
oh, 1350, blah blah blah, like, oh, you know, yeah, he's black people are dumb and all that, and it's like I can see why someone would be entranced by that if they're new to like the right wing and right wing philosophy, but I'm kind of done with like race traders, honestly. I feel like he is a
What the
race trader.
I think you might have gone over this before, if I can remember, but you didn't bring up this specific person. So he's the kind of interviewee to say something like, "Well, black people need to do this and do that." Is that
He's the kind of person where he would have on a black guest, right? And he's black himself. So two black people speaking, and he would say, but do you love white people or do you love Asian people? And then they'll say yes, because like, come on, you're in a talk show. You have to say you love everyone. But then when they say yes, then he'll bring up all these statistics like, well, you clearly hate X like non-black race when by putting forward like all these like tweets and all that stuff. And it's like, dude, even though you're on like quote unquote my side of like the political sphere, like there's something really wrong about disparaging like someone from your culture like that, you know?
I think that energy could be used not from you, but the way he's speaking, it sounds like there's a little bit of malice and self-hatred about it, and I find that is better used. That colloquial, cultural connotation is better used when you're being unserious about it, but also kind of drawing attention to it. So let's just say, for instance, Italians, they like to talk a lot. And let's just say people don't like when other people talk a lot. You're taking something that's negative about your culture and kind of making it your own, owning it, but also not disparaging yourselves for it. You know what I mean? So, I don't want to use and any example I use is, well, let's just say, for instance, if someone were to say, we black people, we love fried chicken, and they're just like joking about it in a social situation, and they say that about themselves. They're poking fun at themselves while also like recognizing that that might be something that's realistic. I don't know, but it's more about like finding the things that make us different, that may be negatives about certain cultures, but being honest about them in a more playful way, but owning them.
It's exactly what you said, but like one level deeper. Like he's wrapping all his words in this like in this packaging of like, oh, I'm just a conservative. I'm just seeing the way that life is, right? I'm seeing something that you're not seeing. When really it's just so obvious that you're just self-hating, right?
You know why I think you don't like this? Because I've seen some of his clips, Jesse Lee Peterson. His points and the way he says them they sound as if a white person is saying them. It makes no sense. He doesn't say it from the position of like, you know what I mean? So like Dave Chappelle or Kevin Hart will say, black guy, we love that, blah, 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 blah. And it might be, I don't know if that was a racist caricature or not.
Not just like a white person saying them. It's like the fucking spirit of like a fucking guy that was at like the Charlottesville rallies was like reanimating this black guy and like making him say all that stuff, but like still recognizing that he's black himself. It's like
they're white talking points said in the manner that a white person would say them, but because it's coming from a person of color, they're giving more attention to him, and it's almost like a different form of tokenization that really frustrates people. So I do get what you're saying.
One big thing is like, I don't care like what ideology you have. I still feel like one base thing that everyone should have is like an in-group preference and like the desire to protect people from their own culture, right? Like if I was Somalian, I would never fucking like openly disparage and make Somalians look like fucking retards, right? I would. Well,
that's nice that you think that, but people within their own cultures don't give themselves that favor. So that's good for you that you feel that way. But it's like your own family. When Trump said something like, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and no one would say anything because that's how he has faith in his followers. It's the same thing with, family members I have. Even if they killed someone, I would still defend them. I would. I don't care.
Exactly.
They're your flesh. You know what I mean? So it's that you should kind of take that level of thinking with your race and realize, yes, there are critiques that you can make about Italians and Spaniards. There are good, honest ones you can make. But why don't you make those critiques from the perspective of an Italian or Spaniard. You know what I mean? So like if you're black, why are you making critiques of your culture from the perspective of a white guy? It literally sounds like you're a white guy critiquing black culture and you're black. Why don't you make those critiques from the perspective of a black man and be honest about it? And that's not what he's doing. So maybe that's where your frustration is coming in. I think I thought your point was kind of stupid initially, but now that we've dug into it a little bit, I kind of like it because it does touch on a deeper point of, you know, being defensive of your heritage and your own culture, especially since you really don't have any. So
yeah, it's like, come on, man. Like, despite all like even if I belong to like a really like heinous group who committed like all this bad stuff, I would still like find a way to like express my love for that group and my positive desire to like want to see them do better, you know. And it feels like there's this malice that's like unresolved whenever he speaks. So Jesse Lee Peterson, you're canceled. L ratio. And
okay, very good. You're giving yourself a lot of credibility. Well, it's kind of like if you said something, you know, you're Asian. You could say something like, "Oh, maybe we are too organized and rigid and methodical with what we do," and you could say that from the perspective of an Asian person instead of saying something like an observation a white person might make about an Asian person. You know, so yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. So I don't know how we were able to have that conversation without sounding explicitly racist, but were we just there?
No, nothing was racist. We were, if anything, we were anti-racist.
Well, neither of us are white, so I guess we can do that, you know. So neither of us are white, so that's our get out of jail free card. But what have white people even been doing these days? Who knows what they're even up to? Kind of
that actually leads really well on to like another thought I had, and it's this thing I saw on Twitter, and I think it was a really good encapsulation of like why the alt-right is like really on its last breath.
Okay, go ahead. I don't know why we're a niche internet phenomenon story hour, but go ahead.
No, it's just a critique of like distant right-wing voices that I saw that I thought was really interesting. It's like the reason people take Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder,
the hot girl that looks like him. Seriously,
yeah. The reason that people take his ideologies and his ideas seriously is because he is part of a group that enables him to be genuine with his ideas, right? If you look at someone that is from one of these like distant right groups, whenever someone becomes too genuine, they immediately get lambasted by the larger group. So if someone was to like be sincere and be genuine and pour their heart out, because the distant right is so laced with irony, like that person wouldn't be able to continue having the gravitas of that group. Do you get what I mean?
Well, that's the problem, is because the alt-right's staple, its genesis, is from being unserious. You're talking about people like Milo Yiannopoulos and people who wear these masks that are the beginning of the alt-right. And anytime someone just shows a little bit of humanity within that group, that it's shown as some sort of strange weakness because they're not falling into whatever the notion of alt-right happens to be, which is just reaction against the right. So if you're not filling this very specific void at all times, then you're thrown out the window immediately. And that's something that I realized. So just a really quick example in myself. A few episodes ago, I opened up and said, I really don't have a problem with men who think it's okay to date or marry women who had a kid from someone else. It means they're fulfilling a gap in that child's life that they wouldn't have had otherwise. I think that's something that normally wouldn't come from, you know, talking to guys or being in normal, let's say even conservative discussions. But that's just how I feel as a human being deep down. And I don't think that section of the right, the alt-right, has that human function to them anymore, because they're They're a vessel. They're a reaction vessel.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
like,
what were you gonna say?
How many times have you seen like someone from the distant right get popular, and then they'll start to open up and be more genuine, and then they'll put forth like some position, and then like that position will go slightly against the grain of what is the pre-approved opinions list, and then because of that one diversion, the entire movement like just magnifies in that diversion, and then like lambasts them and then exiles them. Like I've seen it happen so many fucking times. It's like, okay, there's something serious going on here, you know?
Yeah, because it's a mentally diseased in-group that has no idea what its true identity is beyond reacting to someone else. So it will always constantly be a product of something else. It exists in a state where when something happens, then something alters its state. So what you're talking about, and I know you read it because I don't see why you wouldn't have, but I thought it was really interesting, was I saw that happen with Lauren Southern. She was someone that was, used to be at the forefront of the alt-right. And then she started having really human experiences that she was somewhat public about. And now she's viewed as some insane, another person, the old Richard Spencer, that kind of individual too, but that's a different story. But there's countless people where the second you show that you're a human being, and that's why the entire ideology is tainted, really, because it worked well as a fireworks show around the 2016 Trump campaign. It was a great fireworks show that kind of just broadened everyone's horizon and got everyone's attention. But there was no substance to it beyond what frogs and Milo. Like what could you even say it was at this point? You know what I mean? So it's not lost on me. We were all there, and it had it did have a huge impact on politics forever. So it's not that niche when you bring it up. It's still, I mean, that's what they bring up on the news every day. The alt-right, the alt-right, the alt-right. Now it's a sounding board. It's just an occasionally useful sounding board. I wouldn't even know what it resembles today.
There's no progression. And I think people are starting to realize, like, oh, they really are purely, like, reactionary in all senses of the word. Like, they really
all
do
senses.
Yeah, all senses. Like, all they can do is react to something. They cannot, like, forge forward their own path. Like, they exist sort of like as like a wagging finger to, like, whatever people are creating the real culture. No?
Well, here's a really good example for you. The alt-right, I know this might sound hard to believe, the alt-right used to be pro-LGBT. The alt-right, really? Around the time of Trump's genesis, was, we're all right with this LGBT stuff because they're populists, and they thought that conservatives were too rigid and religious. The alt-right didn't used to be a religious Catholic Roman statue sphere. It used to be something completely different. It used to be about you would have characters at the center of it, like Milo Yiannopoulos, where they wanted to be more, I don't want to use the term inclusive, they wanted to be more open-minded about these social causes that they thought conservatives have been losing in battles for the last 20 or 30 years because they were too religious. And that was the springboard for Trump. Because in 2016, he wasn't a religious candidate at all. The alt-right's favorite phrase about Trump was that he was the first openly pro-LGBT president to run in his first term, because Obama wasn't his first term as president. But now it's trickled down to something completely different, where you show that you're even okay with even a hint. And that I don't lean in that direction at all when it comes to LGBT stuff. But when you show that you're even open to it a little bit, then, or even understanding, or even having some sort of dialogue, then you're destroyed immediately. You shouldn't be trusted. And they're having trouble seeing themselves in the mirror. Now that Trump is running again, this is a difference in ideology that is not the same supporting grassroots alt-right that it was in 2016. It's just not. So why do I know so much about this stupid shit? It's actually crazy. You got anything else on that one? Because you got me started on something that I might go into in a second. So yeah, you got any finishing thoughts on that one?
No, go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
All right. So while we're talking about extremely niche, let's say possibly bigoted opinions that are really, let's just say they're figments of my own mind. Is my favorite head turn that I pull on people is that I boycott Chick Fil-A. I have not been to a Chick Fil-A, and I can't even remember the last time I was at Chick Fil-A. I think I was conned into it by my one friend who listens to this podcast because he just got back from some military thing, and I picked him up from, and he's like, "Oh, I want Chick Fil-A," even though he had a cheesesteak too. I don't know why we were that hungry, but I boycotted Chick-fil-A, and people were like, "Oh, because of their stance against gay marriage and their Christian values." I was like, "No, it's actually quite the opposite." Because, and I've told this story on the podcast before, so I'll skip through it. But there's a video online of their CEO during COVID times shining the shoes as a gesture to bridge the gap between the divide between whites and blacks in America, and it's this just disgusting genuflection, this awful display where he's on a talk show and he says, "Hey man, can I shine your shoes?" And he shines this like Christian black rapper Lecrae's shoes, and he's like, "Yeah, how about some Chick-fil-A stock too?" It was just embarrassing. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in my life, and I was like, I'll never go to Chick-fil-A again. It made me so grossed out that you would bow down and worship someone at such like a peak time temperature wise in our country's cultural history, and it was in such an embarrassing way. I'll never go there again. So I spread the gospel. I tried to spread the anti-Chick-fil-A gospel,
like the politics about that, but that's like really fucking emasculating to do that to some.
Exactly. There must have been something in a biological sense that struck me from that exchange that I just couldn't get past. It really, really bothered me. So I've been spreading the gospel the last few years, and a lot of chickens came home to roost because apparently 2 or 3 weeks ago, an article came out, and you want to be waking up being Kid Moyer that morning. I was like, "Ooh, we eating good now," because I had about 2 or 3 texts through the course of that day being like, "You were right. And so one of my friends, he loves to say some of the most painful words I've ever had to type. "You were right." And because Chick-fil-A announced that they have a diversion and inclusivity initiative going on within their company, where they want to look to broaden their horizons on their franchising model and be more diverse, which is the kiss of death for most companies. And I've worked at major corporations that never had an HR department. They're actually, let alone having an HR department, but having a diversity and inclusion one on top of that, it's just embarrassing. And a company that supposedly has Christian egalitarian values, this is something where you specifically pick people, for reasons that they can't control, which is the opposite of egalitarianism. So I think it just, I think I'm just taking a big victory lap. And I said, more to come. They're going to embarrass themselves even further. And one day they'll be open on Sundays. You'll see. They'll forsake everything that made them a great Christian company in the first place. And
the funniest thing is that that's not even like a good business decision, because you're just alienating your core fucking base. Like, what's the point? Like, you're not legally obliged to like have a diversity department in your company, but you're still doing all this shit anyway for what? You're not going to win anyone over from the left. So what's the point of this,
Oh no, they never will. And the funniest part ever is that there's even playful people on the left who would go to Chick-fil-A anyways and joke about it, like, "Haha, I'm gay and I love Chick-fil-A," whatever. And like that's funny. They're able to bridge that gap in their own little way. But now it's just pathetic, and it's so funny because now it's looped back around where if you're a hard right fringe, just super, super socially conservative person, you have problems with Chick-fil-A now. And if you're gay, you eat it to kind of show them up, which is the complete opposite of what it used to be. But back in the day, people love to pretend on the right. There used to be, parking lots and parking lots and parking lots full of Chick-fil-A customers being like, "Time to own the lefties. They hate when you go to Chick-fil-A." It's not like that anymore. It ain't your daddy's Chick-fil-A anymore. I'm sorry, folks, but they've been captured. They've been captured. So I can't wait. I can't wait. And you know what? Their sandwiches aren't even great. So,
dude, how fucking like brainwormed is like the fucking modern day, where people are like having political wars over a fucking fried chicken restaurant. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, what is it?
I'm more of a silent boycotter. There's some things where I just kind of let it go. It's the old adage, which who knows if it even works, where they say vote with your wallet. Who knows
Yeah.
if that even works anymore? That's something
Well, I
that
mean,
people love
it
to
does
say.
seem to be working for fucking Target, right? Their sales are
It's
going down a lot.
I've
Supposed to
seen
be
it
like
in.
the only fucking W the boomers have been able to pull off. It's like this prolonged boycott of all this shit.
Oh my gosh, it's well. I think there. It is funny because what happened with Anheuser Busch is, I think that okay. If we were to speak very objectively, the boycott was far too aggressive in relation to what actually happened, which was a 1 minute video of a guy in a bathtub. So, but I think it went so far and snowballed so much that people realize that you can actually use this as a weapon now. Because
Yeah.
when I see pictures of Bud Light for free, that's you affected that brand deeply over something that, you know, in hindsight, I would have never even known about if conservatives didn't tell me about it. But it worked. It really worked. I mean, I just saw right before we got on here, Garth Brooks pulled that just really obnoxious egalitarian boomer conservative mantra where he was opening. He's a very popular country singer, and he went to go open a bar, and he said, "We'll have Bud Light at my bar because anyone can drink there. There's no blah blah blah." And then a bunch of investors backed out after he said that because people said they would boycott his bar. So I think what's going on with Bud Light has become more than it's not about Dylan Mulvaney anymore. It's definitely not about that person anymore. It's gone beyond that person. It's showing that you can actually have an effect on these things. And, you know, will they keep it up? Who knows? They're conservatives. They have no spine. But when it comes to their fun little boomer things like their Ford
they are
trucks,
showing spine for the first time though by not going back to Bud Light after 2 hours. So who knows?
Yeah, after 2 hours. Yeah, so pick some other boomer thing, you know, guns or trucks or something. You know, start if they don't seem to care until it goes after those things. But when it comes to, I mean, now they're saying, oh, I don't want this stuff around my children. Where were you the last 30 or 40 years? You know, being involved with public schools, you didn't notice what was going on. But it's all right. Once it got to your kids, then it was a problem. Now it's a problem. It's like, where do you think it was headed in the first place?
Not even the kids. Once it got to their fucking like shitty beer that tastes like piss, then it became a problem.
Then it's a problem. Yeah, I sleep. Yeah, real.
Oh,
shit.
my kids are getting like mentally and like physically destroyed in public school. I sleep. My fucking piss water beer is getting come after by some gay people. Oh, okay, it's time to wake up. Right?
It is funny though how it's like within American culture, when you see someone with a Bud Light, it connotates so much now. Like it says so much about someone. You'll get comments and stuff if you get it. You know, it'd be like if you see a guy at a bar and you're telling a friend a story, it's like, yeah, and of course he was drinking a Bud Light. Like that's normal conversation now in the country, which is hilarious. It never gets old. But that's and I talk about this all the time with anyone who will listen. The things you think that there's an end point. What's that old phrase? It says the revolution doesn't end when you say you want it to. And this applies to both the left and right. But people love saying, well, they can do it in the comfort of their own homes, just not in front of this. It's like they think it's normal enough to do in front of you. They're not going to stop in their bedrooms. It's like, oh, well, this hard right conservative guy said I can only do it in my bedroom. So let's just do that. It's like, they think it's normal enough to do anywhere, and that's what they're going to do. Just because you said you can do it here specifically, that's just going to embolden them further and make them feel like what they're doing is even more right, and they should be able to do it for you. But conservatives don't get that. They're too stupid. They don't understand cause and effect. They're too dumb. That's why they deserve to keep losing, and that's why Biden's going to win again. Did you see that end of Biden's speech where he just says, God save the queen for no reason? Yeah. I am this close to voting for him. I voted right my entire life. But no, I swear I am this close.
I mean, you might as well, right?
I really do. I really might as well. I really might as well.
It really doesn't matter either way. I mean, DeSantis is like done, right? And then fucking Pence, he's no go as well. Trump, less energy than fucking before, which I didn't even think was possible. So it's like, it looks like a Biden landslide regardless. So what's even the point, you know?
So I am and everyone I have met or people like you I've known online, says this about me. I come off as an obnoxious contrarian, just to a degree where it just people roll their eyes at me when I say certain things. It's like, oh wow, great opinion from him. Who saw that coming? But I was hanging out with my dad, and he was talking about how he's excited for Chris Christie to run because it's all about Trump and DeSantis. And I was like, oh, sometimes the master contrarian who taught me everything I know comes out of retirement to be a contrarian one last time. Because we're like, oh, Trump DeSantis. He was like, no, I'm telling you, Chris Christie. And I thought about him the other day because I saw an article that said, because DeSantis has been doing an awful job lately, and I'm a big fan of his, but his campaign has not been off to a good start. And apparently Christie might be closing the gap on him, which is awesome because I totally vote for Christie.
I didn't realize Christie was fucking relevant until like 2 minutes ago. Like,
dude, he's all about it, man. When he, I don't care. I and Adam aren't here, so we can. It's so funny because he's the one who's the political science major, but he can't talk about politics for more than 30 seconds. He's like, yeah, totally. I can't even talk about it in my country or about his own country. But here I go. I really think Republicans don't understand that they're hungry for let's just say, proto-Bush meta rhino type of character to lead their party. Not someone quite like Mitt Romney, but I think they aren't grasping that what they truly want. So when you think about they want someone who is socially conservative but believes in strength of our country, this is kind of to a degree what neocons were. That's what conservatism was before they became more accepting and progressive in a social sense. So, and Trump spent big anyway. So what's it matter whether we have a big spending conservative in there again?
I think I've disagreed with you on this topic before, and I think I think we've discussed this as well. Like, I think you're right, but only for the silent conservative majority that hates Trump and
that's true.
Vote for Biden, because I kind of view the entire Trump wave in 2016 as like a rejection of the Bush era, right?
True.
Like when you see these polls that say like Trump holds like a 96% approval in the Republican Party, I don't think those polls should be taken like lightly. Like, I think he really does have like a massive stranglehold, and it's that rejection of like the Bush era that's catalyzed his rise in the first place. And I don't think people are that willing to go back to it.
Well, when I say they don't realize it, it's because we're in a toxic relationship with our party is in a very toxic relationship with Trump, and we don't realize that. It's this person that you feel like you can't live life without, but once they're finally truly gone and there's no chance of getting them back, you start putting the pieces of your life back together. And I think that's what our party needs to do with Trump. He was a lightning rod. He was a disruptor. He fractured our party in ways that it needed to be fractured. And he made us learn valuable things about ourselves as a party. But that doesn't mean we have to stick with him for the rest of our lives. We need to move along and marry that person that's the best for us, you know? So
dude,
that's where I'm at.
I saw this take recently, and I think it's so fucking it's perfect, right? Like, 2016, like being politically aware in 2015 to 2018, that was like the end time to be politically aware. But anyone that's like really politically like involved and like cares about politics in today's age, they're kind of like a fucking loser. It's like it's over. Like, it's old news to be like quote unquote politically aware. Like,
that's a really
yeah. Well, I feel like it's the ship has sailed. You know?
The mystique and allure of it was gone, and I think there was something that was kind of worth holding on to then from a momentum standpoint. But I'm guilty of that. I used to, I mean, it's not even I used to leave Fox News on all day. Dana Perino's hot. I would leave that on all day, and I'd watch Tucker at night, and I was plugged in. I don't even turn on the news anymore. I watch Teen Titans.
When I see someone that's like really into like what this politician's doing or what this political party is doing, I'm like, dude, I mean, the time to do that was like kind of 6 years ago, but you do you. I guess, you know? I
think you're making a really good point. I think people have really let go, and it's about family or faith if you have one, or, aspirations, or if you want to get secular with it, what you want to accomplish or get out of the universe. It's not as much about politics anymore these days, but maybe because people are worn out over the last few years, or it's just because we had such a captivating figure and media around him for 5 or 6 years. But I mean, just to be anecdotal, during the Obama years, I was very plugged into politics, and maybe I've just gotten older, but obviously I was plugged into them during the Trump years as well. But now, yeah, I'm not really. Maybe it's just because you get old enough to notice that not that much really changes at all.
That's what I was going to say. Like, someone that was really like in the know about politics in the Trump era, they would have had all these predictions about, like, well, if he does this, then X will happen, or if Obama does this, then X will happen. And then you start to realize, like, hold on, nothing ever really fucking happens anyway. So what's the point of me wasting my time and effort?
But that's also what bothers me when people go out of their way to say, well, none of it ever changes. Why are you into that stupid stuff? I enjoy it as a hobby. What we're doing right now is fun for me, talking about this stuff and theory crafting about it. Politics is a fun hobby to follow and discuss, but it's not the same as it used to be anymore. It's really not. It's different now, and I've gotten old enough where I can enjoy following politics without being incensed by it or frustrated by it, or you know what I mean, or having real stakes in it. That's what bothers me, is that people think to be into politics you have to have stakes into it. It's like, no, you just be into. If you can sit around and watch Real Housewives or Below Deck all day, you can enjoy politics as well. I mean, it's just as entertaining and more real too. So there's nothing wrong with that, for sure.
Yep.
But it's not the same anymore, and that's why I vote Chris Christie. So. Hey, conservative governor who governed a blue state and did a good job with it until the end, where he was photographed on a beach when no one was allowed on beaches.
I might have to throw my hat in for Andrew Yang again, unfortunately.
No, dude. Okay. We're going too far with this stuff. I don't know if people have tuned out by now or what, but the fact that people fell for Bernie Sanders 2 cycles in a row blows my mind. I know so many people that fell in and out of Bernie. I'm like, how did you even do that in the first place? Like, I'm not a very smart person, and I didn't even fall for that. So I don't know. But
I feel
all
like
right,
it was fucking like cool to like him, because I see so many people like I guess like on the fringe, right? Like, I would hear Joe Rogan and some of his buddies say, like, yeah, like, I would have voted for Bernie. I mean, I really liked him and what he was saying, and I'm like, what is he saying that's like so groundbreaking?
It's like you did?
It's
what?
Like, yeah. It's like,
okay.
I've heard this like a million times before, but somehow this old fucking retard is like groundbreaking for you. Okay, dude. Like,
saying the same things you would have heard 40 years ago, it's just, it's mind blowing. But all right, well,
he should just get back in his Audi R8 and then just drive off.
I do love the Audi R8 Bernie picture, which I will clarify, because we're not fake news here, might not be him, but I'm telling you, if that's not him, then I'm not myself. I don't know what to tell you. It looks exactly like him. It is actually ridiculous. I don't understand it. All right. You got a palate cleanser on the back end, just because we can't end on politics. I saw the new Spider-Man movie. It was good. I'll probably see The Flash this weekend or something. I don't know. You see anything good these days?
I'm gonna watch The Flash, unfortunately, but I just want to get off my chest. I'm actually really happy that fucking Apple announced their VR headset, because it seems like the world's finally shifting into taking VR seriously. And the Ready Player One kind of reality is going to be real soon, so I'm all for that. Honestly, just give me some fucking Kino like virtual landscape, and just let me be done with it.
I forget who said this, and I saw it somewhere floating around Twitter, but they were trying to make the case that the Apple headsets were a good thing, because it doesn't keep you can see the outside world around you while you're using them, just having windows. So it'll make a more interactive world in front of us and keep us on chairs less. I think I'm oversimplifying it, but they were kind of going in on how it doesn't really pull you out of the world. It kind of pushes you further into
there's a knob
healthy way
on the headset where you can set the transparency for the world. Like, you can have full transparency or like 0%, right?
So the thing that I thought was cool was it had a showcase where when you sit down on a plane, you can just bring up a big screen right in front of you.
Yeah, that's so sick.
I'm sorry, but how is that not cool? Like, I get it. VR is, heralding the AI demon end times. We get it. We're all, Ari's not here to bother us about that. We can talk like adults. Okay. But I'll just say, I'm sorry, but that's cool. And imagine you're walking down the street and you're able to, like, I don't know, in a supermarket or something like that, or you look at a house and see, let's say a home is for sale and you're walking down the street. If you look at that house, you'll see all the statistics about it and its price.
There's a lot of really cool things inside the house in a virtual tour as well. Like, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, you can do all that, And it's so there's the possibilities are endless. And I thought it was really cool. I thought the reception of it was strange. Ooh, 3,500. Like, with inflation, is that even that much money these days? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. But just imagine homes don't have TVs anymore.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing, honestly. And instead you sit down and you're looking at a screen that's probably healthier to look at and isn't a blue screen. So
I think 3,500 is a bit expensive, but I'm glad a fucking company like Apple is throwing their weight behind the VR meme. Well, because it means that it's still going to be relevant from 25 years from now.
Yeah, and I think things like Oculus are kind of kicking themselves right now because that you're completely engrossed in that world when you do that. And that's not fun for me. That's why I never got to it. I think it's strange. I think it's weird. It's like, whoa, like it's a really, okay. The only way to make VR engrossing is to pair it with the real world. That's what those goggles do. When I've done VR Oculus, I know I'm in a virtual world. It's not interesting to me. You're still in place. It's not the only way to marry the two together. I don't care how good the graphics get. It's just not. It's not the same thing. So yes, let all the early adopter losers buy it for 3,500 and just kind of get out all the kinks like you do with everything Apple related, and then you'll eventually. But just imagine you get home and put that on and sit down, and you could pick your hand up and browse your favorite forum on one side, and then look at a huge screen bigger than a projector, bigger than a movie screen, right in front of you at the same time. And then you could see on the left, you could see your kid on the left, watch your kid at the same time. You could do work with it all. I think it'd be awesome. And then pair it with a keyboard. That'd be amazing. I think it's a cool concept.
Two like 100-inch like TV screens. Watch like the Chris Christie announcement video on one end, and then the Marco Rubio announcement on the other one.
No, you watch Chris Christie's presidential acceptance speech. So. All right, so we're Apple headset guys. All right, well, I think I'm good. I have a rant about how I think old people should retake their driving test when they hit 80, but I'll save that for another time.
Well, that's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it?
It is, but I can hone in on it for quite a little while. It's actually funny. For those who know, truly adept Pink Boys listeners, I complain about old people and driving in our first episode. It might either be our first episode or our first unreleased one that we only passed around to about 10 people. So those are the real Pink Boys there. I'm what is it, episode 60 something? I'm ready to loop back around on that one. I wasn't done with that one yet.
Yeah, so, return to tradition.
Yeah, return to Pink Boys tradition. So again, and also we might be there's one specific cryptocurrency that I think we might have to, break our newly found cardinal rule and talk about in an episode to come. But we'll save that. We'll save that. That it's like a Tupac East First West thing, but we'll hit them up for sure. They deserve it. But all right, I think I'm good. So I will now be going to canvas for Chris Christie door to door. I'm going to wear a fat suit and talk, like a North Jerseyan and try and do that. So until next time, I'll talk to you guys, and Tyson, you can play us out.
Yep. Vote Andrew Yang, and that's all, folks.